Parents, are you going to leave your children assets, wisdom, or both? Part two, we're going to be talking about legacy. Okay, so this is now for parents. Starting building your legacy in retirement planning really starts when, when you have your children, from 0 to 25. Now we're in that quadrant for those children that are going to be part of that retirement plan. Now we're starting to look at, what are you teaching your children? Because when we build retirement plans, we're thinking of ourselves. But part of that is we also have to pass on the knowledge on how to build a retirement plan to our kids, because if not, we're just giving them money when we pass away or leaving them an inheritance. Well, what happens all the time, and we see it every day, is that those who inherit money or wealth but never learned how to earn it, what happens is they spend it and then they're broke when they go to retire because they're busy spending what you left them. Well, that requires education. That requires the parents sitting down with their children and explaining why it's important to build a plan. What do we do as parents? Start teaching them how to save. Start teaching them about time. Start teaching them about the things that are critical that they're going to need to learn. Now, they may not know a lot, but at least you're educating them, because at some point you're going to leave them wealth. Okay, so that's something that I want to make sure that you, when you're building a legacy, you really start putting that in the back of your mind. The second thing is that, okay, let's say you own a business. Do they know how to run that business that you're going to leave them? Or are they, when you pass away, are they just going to sell it because they have no clue? And you may have a multi-million-dollar business that they're going to sell because they don't have the knowledge to carry that on. Well, now you need to spend time with them to teach them those things, but do it when they're young. 0 to 25 is the quadrant when they're going to learn and grasp things, okay? Because 25 to 50 is when they're going to be earning their wealth, and then 50 to 75 is when they're going to be enjoying their wealth, okay? So make sure that if you have your business, your assets, whether it be, your investments, things like that, things that you've built, educate them. How did you do it, mom and dad? You want to make sure you explain it to them so they're not left in the dark. Because what ends up happening is you cripple them, because all you've done is give them money. And all they know is how to spend it. But they didn't actually learn how to earn it, preserve it, and build their own wealth. So make sure that part of your legacy is that component, okay? The next thing, which I'm going to talk a little more technical now, is you need 4 streams of income when it comes to retirement. That's the thing that people have to understand, okay? Because when you go to retire, you're going to think of, okay, I'm now 60 years old. I got to think about my health, my medical, which is expensive when you're older. I got to think about, how am I going to take care of my base cost? Whether it be, even if I own my house outright, I still got to pay property tax and insurance. I still got to make sure I got to eat and live. Okay, so that's your base cost. Then do you want to travel? Remember, part 1 was lifestyle. What lifestyle did you create? That's going to take money. That's the 3rd stream of income. The 4th stream of income is your legacy of how you're going to leave money to your kids. Do you even want to leave money to your kids? But actually, you should be creating something, or at least have a life insurance policy to be able to leave that pot of money as a legacy to your children. So those are some things you want to make sure that you consider. Now, I want to make sure that you understand this graph that you're looking at. Okay, at the y-axis, you're seeing the markets. On the x-axis, you're seeing time. Now, you want to look at this through accumulation periods and distribution periods. The accumulation periods is 0 to 50. That's when you're building your wealth. That's where you're investing. And I don't care if you're investing in, real estate, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever you choose to do, crypto. But the reality is that's an accumulation phase, 0 to 50. Therefore, the markets are important. Once you get to the distribution phase, time is critical because obviously you're in the third quadrant of time. Okay, now you're 50 to 75. As you pull money out and you're spending it and you're living in your golden years, what you have to consider is, if I leave my money in the markets, can I afford to lose? In 2008, that's exactly what happened. People were retired and they lost their pensions. They lost their 401ks. They lost everything. They had to go back to work at a later age. That's the part that people don't understand. When you go into the distribution phase, you need to secure your money. Unless you have an abundance amount of money and you can afford losses, it shifts. Your thinking needs to shift with it. Okay? You cannot afford to lose money. So how do you protect it? Protecting your wealth is a key component of the wealth strategy. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, there's products out there, which I could be happy to go over with you, that will protect your wealth and create independent retirement plans that will last for a lifetime without fear of loss in the markets. So these are the things that you need to understand: the accumulation phase and the distribution phase when you're going to retirement, and having 4 streams of income at a minimum. At a minimum. But the first one is going to be Social Security. That is like an annuity because it's for life. So remember that. That's your baseline. And then from there you build up. Last thing I want to leave you with: what will you leave your children? Assets, wisdom, or both? Okay, so make sure that that is the key component of the second part of retirement planning.